Okay, we're recording. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 1, the premiere episode of Skagit County Track and Field podcast. With us today is Peter Voorhees from LaConner High School, an old coaching mate of mine and Coach Grantham up top. I feel like the band is finally back together, you guys. Pete, welcome. Welcome.
It's been too long. Hey, thanks for having me. This is, kind of a pipe dream that I'm excited that is actually coming to fruition. So, Johnny, thanks for getting this together. And Jake, I know you guys are working together on this. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, seeing where this is going to go.
Yeah, hopefully it's a useful tool for everybody. Before we get into the nitty gritty here, you've got a big event coming up, something you've done in the past near Thanksgiving time. You want to talk about the turkey trot real quick?
Yeah, it's a fundraiser for our track and field program, ran through our booster club. I got involved. It was originally, I think we lost track of the annualness because we took a little break during COVID, but I think this is probably the 15th or 16th one. Originally, it was a fundraiser by the community to build a skate park, and the skate park got built, and there was this little run of about 60 people that was happening, and now we took it on, built it up to about 450 people in 2019, and then had a little hiatus for the last couple of years from COVID, getting that many people together. And now we're getting it back rolling. Working with a great local sponsor, Pioneer Potatoes, and hopefully Thanksgiving morning, if anybody's out there, you can find it on active.com. Search up LaConner Turkey Trot 2023. Hopefully we got some prizes for 5K race and then a 3K walk, and we'll do a little kids dash. Everybody gets a 3-pound bag of local spuds, which is a kind of unique deal on this run. So yeah.
What time is that at, Pete?
That is 8 a.m. Thanksgiving morning. And our tagline is earn your dinner. So it provides a nice little guilt-free indulgence later in the day. Get out, get a 5K in.
Love it.
I think, Johnny, we can probably add that to the link when we send the video out too. So that'll be
get it in the show notes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy, fellas. This is episode 1.
Hey, I have faith in you.
Okay, I'm glad you do.
All right, Pete, we're gonna get started sort of with our format here. So our first thing is called the 2-minute drill, and it's just giving us the quick and dirty on your background on track and field, both in terms of the competing as well as the coaching. So whatever you'd like to highlight in terms of that, give us a little bit of a rundown. Now, you are a Skagitonian, so this will be unique as well, as we are obviously the Skagit County Track and Field podcast. So
yeah. So I got involved in track my sophomore year in high school. I was one of those two cool basketball players, gonna just train in the spring, not do 3 sports like people should. And then so I did that my freshman year, and then I have 3 older brothers, and my next oldest brother Aaron is 2 years ahead of me. My sophomore year, his senior year, he was my ride, and I realized that I should get out and do track. My football coaches encouraged me to do that, and it turned out that I was better at my older brother at something, which was a first athletically, where we were competing directly. And man, I just ate that up. And that was the javelin for me. And so I focused on that. I threw shot, disc, jav, high jumped for a half a second. I think I cleared 5 feet, but nothing, just trying to mix it up a little bit. And then at the end of that sophomore year, I kind of screwed up my leg in a car wreck. And so throwing was going to be the thing after that. So did all right in high school. I think I went 12th at state, and then 6th my junior year, and 4th my senior year, I think is what it was. won a couple county championships, set the county record, since this is a Skagit County track and field podcast, throw that in there.
Still there, Pete. Still up.
Yep.
Yep. Still there. Which is a fun one. And then originally out of high school was hoping to go play college football. Ended up in Spokane, going to community college in Spokane. Through 2 years there, earned a junior college All-American my sophomore year. Got recruited a little bit to go down to University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and through there my junior and senior year. And finished up my throwing career there in 2008. Coaching wise, even when I was in Spokane in 2007, it would have been 2006, I coached, volunteered at Ferris High School as my first year coaching high school, just as a volunteer, and then came back to the Spokane area in 2008 and 9, coached at Lewis and Clark High School in 2009, 2008. No, that would have been 2009, and then Ferris in 2010, and then the year of 10-11 got hired in LaConner and became the head coach at LaConner, coaching with Johnny on the sprints, and ran that program for a while. And then Jake came on as head coach there, and then Jake left, and I took the reins back as head coach, and I've been head coaching, coached pretty much everything within track and field between all of those different stops, but mostly throws.
Is this year 14 for you at LaConner? I was trying to do the math earlier.
Yeah, I think this is 14.
14. Okay. Let's focus in on the county and kind of the meet itself, Pete. What do you think the best part about coaching in Skagit County is?
Hands down, it's the relationships that we've been able to develop during over the years as a cohort of people who are number one, humble for the most part. Okay. I would say, and number two, pretty knowledgeable. That's been the core group of coaches in the coaching community around here, I think, are mostly in it for the right reasons. We're trying to get kids better. Yes, absolutely competitive. But at the end of the day, a lot of us have been doing this long enough. We have a little bit of perspective that, I don't want to burn a relationship over some, trivial thing. Cause I know that being part of the community, it's a community worth burying the hatchet and, maintaining those relationships.
Yeah. And then, going along with the relationships that you have with the coaches, what does the county meet mean to your program?
For our program now, I think it's unique because it's the oldest meet in the state. I have a personal connection to it. Some of my best competing memories, best team memories as a high school athlete come from that meet. And so to try to build it up and talk about the legacy and some of those records. Now, there's a record from 1921 that still stands. Yeah. It's cool and people are into it. And I think it's one of those that, with conference realignments and league shakeups and schools moving up and down, it's hard to put to kind of hang tradition on in some legacy on some of our even like district league meets at times. And so for the county meet, like that's steady. It's predictable and you can kind of sink your teeth into it as far as like getting kids bought into the history, which I think is important. Yeah.
I think you're right on there.
One thing I think all three of us obviously share because we were at LaConner is, and Pete, I'd like you to kind of speak on this is, as being a smaller school in terms of division, a 2B school, going up against obviously 3A and 2A and stuff like that. What does that also mean for your kids in terms of the county meet? Because I know that obviously the three of us have shared that point, but if you
Yeah.
can kind of express that.
No, it's I love how there's no BS in track. That is why it's my favorite thing to coach. Okay. It is what it is. And if you're good, you're good. It doesn't matter what classification your school is. And for LaConner, our girls volleyball program, for example, and we share a lot of girls volleyball athletes, they walk into a gym and believe they belong. Our track kids walk out onto the track in events that they're confident and believe they belong. And, that doesn't ring true in all the other sports. And to be able to, and that's one of the takeaways that, like, we've coached teams that have placed in the top 3 at county, when we were at LaConner together. Okay. Like that, if you can pick off a 2A school that's 2, 3, 4 times your size and be like, yeah, we have a better program than them this year. That's a huge source of pride. And when those individual events come up, because, getting kids at a small school, sometimes they're like, I don't think I can go compete against them. And then they look at their times, they're like, no, you got a chance to win this thing. And even, when the years that we're blessed enough to have put together relays that are competitive, I mean, shoot, I'm thinking Dalton Zavala running that anchor leg at Mount Vernon at county, edging out the guy from Burlington, Arndt, who ended up running at Central. Last year, the 4x4s at county are electric. And so those are some of those memories. Our 4x2s with, Emily, I just think those are the type of, yes, you belong, and you belong on your merit. Those are the things that I love being about a small school, and surprising people. That's what, because it cuts both ways. Sometimes small school kids think they don't belong, and sometimes big school kids and coaches don't think these small school kids belong. And I love to surprise people, yet not be surprised myself in how successful some of our small school kids can be.
Yeah, before we get to the next question, what you said right there, I mean, the person that comes up to me recently was Tommy, and the way he ran the hurdles, and to see kids from bigger schools that have had good success in the hurdle races at their level look and go, holy crap, that kid smokes. It was cool. And, it's almost like a no-lose situation for those smaller schools, in terms of, you go out there with nothing to lose and compete your butt off, and, earn the respect, like you said, whether that's right or not, from some of the bigger schools.
Yeah. Whether it's there before the race or not, to have the opportunity to do it and have it be earned is, I think that, again, that's what I love about track.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna kind of move on to the next thing, which is who or what have been the 3 biggest influences on your coaching philosophies, and then if you can kind of go into why. So,
gosh, this is the one, in reading over some of these questions ahead of time, that I struggled with, trying to narrow down. And the more I think about it, the more cream kind of rises to the top, because, man, I've been around some good coaches. I've been around a couple of great ones. And just, I've known since I didn't always know that I wanted to be a teacher, but I pretty much knew I always wanted to be a coach, at some level. And so, as a Javelin guy, no, don't tell anybody, but our practices aren't all that hard, and they can be done pretty quick. And so I would, becoming a fan of track and field, and figuring out what the good times were for the other events and the good distances were, and then learning, okay, why are they saying this thing? Why is that coach yelling this thing? And saddling up to a bunch of them. So even from the time I was in high school, so I got to give Kevin Gudgel a shout out. He was my high school head coach. So Gudgel, one of the things that he did particularly well is emphasizing the importance of the team and team points. And just the fact that it's an individual sport, but there is a team count at the end of like the county meet, like it's a team title, and putting emphasis on that. And I think anytime we're doing something athletically or otherwise that's bigger than yourself, I think that there's a greater opportunity for meaning. And so Gudgel really emphasized that for me. Next guy I would say is Larry Beatty. He's a legendary coach from Spokane Falls Community College Spokane. Longtime head coach. And that guy was excited. Both Gudgel and Beatty have a lot of similarities. They're both stat guys. They can pull up who ran what time of the 400 in 1994 and remember how they ran the turn. And you remember his socks were black, like those kind of like, okay.
I don't get it. I've always wanted that. Can't ever do it.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I got a couple memories. But man, those guys both had attention to detail and could come in and talk to you about your performance from 3 meets ago, 5 meets ago, last year, and really make you feel like, no, I was seen. They were paying attention. So those two guys, as far as running a program, those are head coaches. As far as those two, and I kind of gravitated towards a couple programs. David Vaughn at Ferris also ran a similar program. Organizationally, David Vaughn used kind of some of the meet setup stuff. And regretfully, he passed away. He was a longtime girls head coach at Ferris High School in Spokane. And then I gotta throw you two in there on my Mount Rushmore of coaches. Both your two mugs are up there. Getting to work with the both of you and seeing how you operate and what you're willing to ask kids to do, and being like, no, this is what it is. And I think both you do a really solid job of that. And that's an area I feel like I'm always trying to get better at, is just being clear, because I think clear is kind, and then holding kids to a standard, and that's a standard for your program. And whether it's set or not, everybody knows it. So,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate the nod there, and obviously, people who are listening to this don't know that we all three coached together, but it was probably one of the most enjoyable coaching years that we had. So we learned a lot, I think, within that year. So that was pretty cool. But I will say, as being on your coaching staff, I would love for you to reflect on what you sort of consider your greatest strength as a head coach, because that was one thing I really enjoyed coaching with you. So I'm interested to hear what your answer is, because I think I have my own thoughts on that.
Yeah,
I would love to hear.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Pete, if you get stuck, I think we can help you out.
Okay. Because if I look in talking about who your coaching influences were, now again, is it luck or is it skill? I don't know. I have been extremely fortunate in collecting solid assistant coaches. Some, batches have been more than others. In the year that all three of us coached together would be, that's a top tier assembly of talent, coaching wise. Let's see. I think outside of, practice attendance, I think I do I'd say my strengths is trying to manage the people, to allow the assistant coaches to be in a position to be effective and focus on the relationships with the kids and make sure that they're heard, because the event work coaches are really where the work gets done. And as a head coach, I think my job is to create an environment where they can be effective and be relational. And then if they need the backup, if I got to be the hammer, or if I got to come in and try to help mediate something, be willing to do that. But yeah, so I'd say just I hope it's setting up an environment where my assistants can be effective, because I know I can't do it all.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's big, especially at a school, your size, where, I mean, how many paid stipends do you have other than yours?
Well, we have myself and 2 paid stipends.
Yeah.
But that has not stopped me from recruiting a bunch of volunteer talent. And so like last year, I was looking at my practice plan. We had myself, Ricky, Coach Souders as our paid staff, and then Mason Murdoch, Rob Lawson, Ari, Amanda Voorhees, Toby Walls. So we had an additional 5 volunteers. So Carly Solberg occasionally. So I mean, it's not, as you guys know, I like to roll deep with the assistants where we can, and yeah, but a lot of that is on goodwill and trying to get those assistants in and excited about making relationships with the kids that are going to be impactful. So I don't know. Yeah. So back to you. What do you guys put me on the seat?
Well, before we get, to the next one, I think the 2 biggest things that I appreciated, working under you, one was your meet management. I know that there were a lot of times where, at least in my eyes, because my first year at Mount Vernon, man, I didn't have to do much in terms of managing meets and hosting meets. And there were times where I felt like I was building the ship as we were flying it. And those first couple of years at LeConner, you had a system down, and that part was great. The other thing I loved about working with you is you never, ever lost your shit, ever. Like, things would go crazy. Kids would freak out, things would happen, and you were so flatlined. And I think that's a huge attribute as a coach. So anyways, those would be the 2 things I think I took from you big time. I don't know about you, Jake.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would reiterate both those things. I think Pete and I always talked about how we were kind of a good balance when we were coaching, in terms of our emotional levels and expectations and communications and all those other things. But yeah, I will say, I don't know if it was force a habit or it's your nature, and it's definitely, your support systems with your family and everything in terms of running a meet. But you and I always said, and it happened a lot of times where we had to roll into a league meet and had to run a meet, and to be able to be capable enough to not only have our athletes ready to go, but also just seamlessly, comfortably be able to run a meet. It was always pretty cool to have that. So that's definitely, again, it's a lot of confidence in a head coach, a lot of confidence in your assistants to be able to say, hey, we're gonna be able to do this, and this is what's expected. So, we've kind of at Woolley now, we're obviously trying to instill that as much as possible, with our kids and everything else, running the middle school meet, having the kids be accountable for those things, and all those things were kind of built on, what was happening when we were at LeConner. So,
and I appreciate you guys bringing that up, and that crossed my mind, but as far as coaching goes, but I think it does fit into coaching, because I'm a track and field fan, and I want our one of the things that kind of frustrated me about as an athlete was, as an athlete, I went in and I was like, I'm curious about what's a good 800 split. I'm curious about what pole vaulters are doing and how they're training. Like I've always been curious about that, and the silos that our different event groups can get in, where they are independent little entities, little teams within teams, not even knowing who's on your team, not even knowing what's good. And so I think it's really important that when we have the opportunity to teach track and field to our athletes as a holistic sport. And part of that is hosting meets and knowing what a good meet is. And, I've had a lot of alumni come back and help. And I've had, running those middle school meets, those kids are learning what to expect at a meet by running a meet. And they know the rules, because that confidence to walk in and not be surprised by, oh, that's a rule. Oh, a good example of that. Last year, Morgan Huizinga, who ended up going to state for us in Javelin, she's ran Javelin meets, the previous 3 years. That's been, I've assigned her so she can go up and understand order and run in a reverse, worst to best final. And there's other girls that she's competing against that don't understand that the best person has an advantage by going last, because they know what they have to beat. And so the girl who was sitting in ahead of her in our 1 to state by district meet took all 3 throws in finals, not out of necessity, but out of ignorance. And Morgan's like, okay, I got to throw that to win. Bam. Took the final spot, knew what she had to do, got it up and did it. And then ended up, placing well at state too, because she understood the ins and outs of the sport. Because she's not only just been this thing that tracks happen to, she's been a person who's been administering the meet, coaching our little kids camp, and I think that if you get all 3 of those approaches within track, because there's such a weak officiating base, it adds to the confidence of your athletes, so that, when they go to state or by districts, it's not the first time they've been told, okay, check in, right. Or, here are the rules, even though sometimes those get a little bit funky at a big meet.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys saying that. I take a lot of pride in hosting stuff. So, thanks for noticing that.
Well, now we're hosting you, so you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jake, I'm gonna combine, and for you too, Pete, I'm gonna combine kind of our event section and practice organization, because I think those two blend well, especially at a smaller school where, you're sharing so many different athletes with so many different coaches doing so many different events.
Yes.
So Jake, I'll kind of take this next group, and then maybe you can hit on off season once we wrap up this section. But
yeah, sounds good.
Pete, I want. I think you've kind of touched on it, but just your bread and butter is Javelin. Am I safe to assume that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, just overall philosophies of Javelin. What do you see? What do you believe in? Somebody who throws javelin from LaConner High School will know this about you and your philosophy. What would that be?
Shoot. Again,
like
one of the things.
Low to high.
Yeah. So low to high, slow to fast.
Okay, good. Slow to fast. Those are the only Jake. Those are the only 2 throwing terms I knew. And every time I walk past Pete at practice, I just look at his javelin kid and say, "Hey, low to high." And Pete would look at me like, "You dumbass. That's not what we're
So, So if you want to be a good throws coach, low to high, slow to fast, back to front. Okay.
Perfect.
Sign me up. I think we can call it that. All right. So, no. So, shoot, the thing that, I think javelin in general, it's rhythm. Okay. It's closer to, triple jump and hurdles than it is shot put and discus. There's going to be a little bit of pain involved if you're even if things go well. There's often, it's a violent action. A lot of kids get surprised about track, how physically brutal or taxing it can be on your body. And javelin, I would say, is up towards the top of events that put, awkward strains on your body. So as far as what kids know, they're going to know, ones, threes, and 5-step approaches. They're going to hear me do this a million times. Just that little increasing penultimate cadence. They're going to need to release, it's got to be, everything starts at the feet. And so you're timing that jab, trying to keep that hand, if I'm a right-handed thrower, I'm trying to keep that away from my left foot as long as possible until it's time to get up and over the top of the throw. It's important to kind of throw within your frame. So if I get what I mean by that is I want to try to get my elbow above my shoulder, and I want to get my wrist inside my elbow. And so when I'm throwing, sorry if I'm leaning back so you can see. So I'm throwing, I'm not going to get out here and extend into the side, because that's going to put additional strain on my elbow. And as a thrower who had bad habits that spent a lot of time trying to ice and rehab some elbow injuries, that's a common thing. If you want to get in the real nitty gritty of it, there's kind of two high-end philosophies on javelin, which is a German style versus a Finnish style, which is going to involve the Finnish style is going to be more of a kind of non-plant or non-push on your right foot, where you're just trying to get right to left as fast as possible, where German styles like the Hans rollers out there, they're going to push off their right foot and more vault into their left foot with a little bit more power, where Finnish style is going to be more about holding that position and trying to transfer the run-ups energy into your left foot. Kind of you go, so if you're counting your last 3 steps and you go 3, 2, 1, your 3 is a push, your 2 is as light as possible, and your 1 is your plant. Versus in a German style, it's 3 push or push plant. Okay. But all those are about how you're trying to connect your run up into the actual throwing motion. Got to go through the tip. Yeah, I don't know. So I can geek out on it if I feel like I kind of did. But
it's an event that's always amazed me. The fact that you're transferring so much speed and energy into an implement that is awkward by design and not super heavy, and can go awry pretty quick. And this is coming from a guy who, the first time that ever threw a javelin, the back of it swung up and hit me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
It's violent. It's extremely athletic. It's timing. And I also think it kind of gets a bad rap from some of the throws coaches around, that it's kind of the stepchild of the throws. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think there's purist throwers. Like if you look at some of the guys up in Whatcom County, a couple of them don't even coach javelin. Mm-hmm. It's like beneath them. And I don't know. I think it might be above them, but
yeah.
So it's interesting because biomechanically, I think it's really fun. Like, I think there's so many moving pieces. And, just like you've seen probably, the Johnny Lee throwing a javelin, a guy who's a pretty darn good athlete, pretty coordinated. It can humble people who you think are fantastic, that are so good at other things. And that's one of the beauties of track, is that if you can find the event that fits for that person's athleticism, man, they can make it sing. But it can be real ugly if you got the wrong person in the wrong event.
Can also be humbled quite quickly in a lot of different things. Yep.
100. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think that mutual respect, I think it's important, expose kids to multiple events, and whether that's through a heptathlon or something, to make them kind of get out of their zone, and have a shot putter run an 800, or a distance runner who's used to running a 32 come in and try to throw a discus and be like, okay, you might be great in your area, but there's other things. So
Okay, let's can you go into I'm going to let you share screen here, and you've prepared some little scope and sequence, kind of a practice plan type thing for everybody. So go ahead and hit that, and when I see it switched, I'll get our pictures away and let you kind of take control there.
Yeah, so what you see here is I live my organizational life in Google Sheets. And part of that is, so this is my team the size of it allows me to be a little bit more specific. So in the notes, you asked for a Monday practice midweek or mid-season. So this is week 5. Okay. So you can see I got attendance and all this stuff down at the bottom in each tab, going from week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and on. One of the things this year, coming out of COVID, and really we got together at a coaching conferences, which I think are so important for coaches to get together in the off season and game plan for your season, is we came up with kind of 2 big, I stole this from Johnny years ago and expanded on it, but courage, commitment, and competition. So those were 3 C's when Johnny was coaching football in LeConner that he held on to as near and dear to the football program. We brought them over in track, and then I expanded them to include character and communication. And I love alliteration. So our focus for this season was community and capacity. Okay. And so capacity is we got to get better at doing more. And in a small program, you got to be able, and so increasing our capacity, and then building community within our track and field program. And again, you build community when you get yourself in the community. And so if you see this Monday, we start at 3:00, and every Monday last season, we took a half hour the first half hour, and we did this from day 1, went over to our Braves Club, which is our after school youth program for elementary age kids. And we read to them for a half hour. So we started the beginning of the track season with that, giving back to our community, making sure that we are not just about us as a program. I preach that to the athletes. They're not just about them and their event group. It's not just about us as a program. You got to figure out a way to serve. So our first half hour of a practice year for the whole year on a Monday, we went and did that, which I was so proud of our kids for getting on board with. And then we do dynamic flexibility, and then we start in the gym. Normally we do some additional stuff there, and then so I'm leading that. So dynamic, these are all busted out into 10-minute increments. So I'm leading that. Coach Souders, when we get out on the track, is going through a mock series with a march, a skip, a run. So it's a form running. You guys are familiar with that, but for those who might not be, A stuff is front side mechanics, B stuff is extension or backside mechanics, and C is kind of putting them together a little bit. So, then we would do a sprint workout most Mondays, and so we're using free lap. I'm borrowing a lot of the programming that you guys have developed. And I think free lap's a great tool for us to be able to just keep it. This is where you're at. This is why you're doing it. And then, so I break this out. I had pretty much everybody through the middle part of the season doing our free lap workouts, which are fairly short with recovery. I'd send our distance runners out on a tempo run there, and I let the distance runners, that's not my specialty. They were on board and doing a great job. Then after that, we do a med ball circuit for some of our sprinters. And then, so in this day, hurdlers, triple jumpers, high jumpers, and jav, we're doing that med ball circuit. And then, and then we would go shot puts, working with Coach Landworth on shot for the rest of the time. And then the last half hour of practice was getting into event work. So Coach Richards was working relays, Souders on hurdles, Coach Murdoch was on triple and long, Coach Lawson was on high jump, and I was over at jav. And so we had that last half hour on a Monday to be spread out, and then 2 laps and a partner stretch to cool down. And that would wrap our practice.
Pete, I got a quick question before you scroll down. And I think I know the answer to this, but just for the listeners. Are you're having everybody but your distance group do a sprint workout on a Monday?
100%.
Is that because you find value for everybody doing the sprint workout, or is that just because you've got a small team and it's just easier to have everybody together?
Much more the first than the second.
Yeah.
I think it's valuable for everybody. I had an uncle who was thrown at University of Oregon in the 70s, and he's like, oh yeah, we used to run 300s and 250s. And, I'm not as a discus thrower. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily the training why I'm doing it, but it's athleticism is athleticism. And so much sprinting is an extremely athletic thing to do, to be able to figure out where your body is in space and getting better at running. I mean, it's so fundamental. Okay?
Yeah. I think it's the most extreme thing your body can do.
And when you look at athletic movements, they're almost always done in single support. Mm-hmm. Okay. The most dynamic movements in sports are very, very often in single support. So like you're on one leg doing something dynamic. And sprinting is like the foundation for so many of those movements. So I think the benefits are absolutely there as long as everyone's healthy. So
cool.
So not even if we had a bigger team, I would encourage them to do the sprint workout. And they're not taking that long. Like if you look at our shot putters, they still have 50 minutes of dedicated event work. Right. I think that's plenty if you're organized and you're getting after it. Other things that are helpful that I've done, like this bottom section where I have everybody listed out as far as their event groups. That's something I peeked over at Linda Goodmanson's practice plan one time, and she had everybody dialed in. And that's something I used to do more kind of on feel and where we're at. And I think, again, clear as kind. I can tell this kid, this is your event group. This is into the assistant coaches who might be coming in from not a school job, rolling into practice a little bit late. These are your guys. Here's your practice plan. There's your roster who you should expect during that session.
Yeah, that's good.
And keeping relays down there, and you can see we put relays down as far as who's ran what, when, and so if there's a change, we kind of got that stable established, so it's there. And again, so yeah, then this is our practice plans. We roll down through the week. One other thing that I thought was good that we did this year, again, being explicit about stuff, is assigning my assistant coaches to meet in with a class. So like at the beginning of, like in our first warming up time, okay, Coach Richards, you got the seniors. And so it's his job, because there can be a lot of standing around at track practice while watching kids warm up, and to be explicit, hey, you're their checkpoint. You're their guy. Coach Souders, you got the juniors. You go talk to them. And with young coaches, because I deal with a lot of young volunteer coaches, they need practice at asking kids what's going on and getting to know them. And so I think putting them in a leadership role, that I think it just helps build them up and have a little bit more rapport within the team. So that's a change that I did this year that I'm definitely going to continue.
Yeah, that's great, man. I appreciate you showing us the practice plan. That's above and beyond. I appreciate it. Jake, you wanna hit it with the rapid fires? We kind of close down here.
Yeah, I think we're cruising into rapid fire. So, Pete, these are things that you have not necessarily been prepared for. We're looking for one-word answers to these, and so a combination of things that we're wanting to know. And so, first thing pops in your head is kind of what we're looking at. Johnny, you want me to start with my questions, or you want to go?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. So, which place felt more like a foreign country the first time you visited? Alabama or Italy?
Still Italy. Yeah.
All right. Second question. Who's a better track athlete, you or your wife, Amanda?
My wife, Amanda, hands down, no question.
Good answer.
I married way up athletically, academically, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
I kind of knew that one. All right.
Yeah.
My last one. What would the name of your food truck have been if you had chosen to devote your career to the hot dog cart that you had in college?
Hopefully no one listening to this works for food services or
no, yeah. Man. Pistols? I don't know.
Hey,
pistols.
Pistol.
One word. Yeah.
You realize now that anytime you show up to a county track meet, people are gonna call you pistols from here on out. Okay. What our audience might not know is you teach a class called Cultures Through Cuisine. That is, home ec based and social studies based. And without getting into the nitty gritty of that, what is and this isn't for your class, but what is your favorite thing to cook in general? Favorite thing to cook?
Through that class, I started making paella, and I've done that a couple times. So whatever the answer would be, it would be something on an open fire. It would be something that is going to get people together. And there's probably going to be both meat and seafood involved. And so, yeah, I'd probably say cooking paella over open fires. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So Pete, you teach social studies, obviously. The Olympic Games' biggest influence on history has been what?
Biggest influence. I gotta go Jesse Owens in Berlin.
Yeah. Yep. Good call.
Okay. So if you need me to explain that more, but
people can look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one, rapid fire. I know you're big into competition. There are many times where I'm at meets and all I hear is you screaming, compete.
Yes.
Yes. Who is the best competitor that you've ever coached?
Best competitor I've ever coached. I'm going to give one nod to attitude and one nod to experience. So, there's moments where you're coaching a kid and you hear them talking about the program when they might not know you're listening, or like they're doing stuff that, Addie and Charlie, Jake, I think we saw, we're like, oh, they're doing the thing where they've internalized the thing that you're talking about, and be willing to, where they're showing leadership. So that's fantastic. Wiley Talene, one time was like, listen, I'll run whatever you want. We got to get a point to win this league championship. Okay. That attitude of like, I'll be willing to do whatever. And we've put throwers in a 32 to win a league championship or, whatever.
They're still running.
They're still running. Yeah. Yeah. It's been 6 years, but they're almost done. And then we've had a handful of athletes where I knew that if they got the baton, and I'm thinking 4x4, as I already mentioned it, it's probably Dalton Zavala.
Yeah.
When I think of someone who I'm like, I'm not going to put it past him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like, something crazy could happen. Tommy's also in that category for me. Maddie Lagerway. No, I'm sorry. I take it back. Maddie's the best competitor I've coached. But again, Maddie ended up internalizing that whole I'll do whatever attitude as well. And going from Maddie is in like, I'll do it for me to I'll do it for us, and having her make that switch over her 4 years as an athlete. That's something I'm super proud of her, to be able to get to that maturity where you're going a little bit more, less about me and more about we, to make the cliche. So,
yeah, big turning point for her. So, Pete, thank you very much for joining us. I hope people get something out of this. I know that we did, and we got to get together soon and hash out the season ahead. But I appreciate you coming on here and sharing some thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yep, and just one last shout out, Turkey Trot. Make sure you check it out. We'll try to get the link out and make sure we get as many people there as possible. So,
yeah. Hey, I just want to say thank you guys for this. It's so fun to talk track, and especially with you two. We've spent so many hours hashing out all these things, but it's nice to put it in a succinct place. And thanks again for doing this.
I agree. Okay, talk to you soon, Pete. Thanks.
All right, thanks, guys.